Okay, so this is the October 2017 user meeting. Hi, everybody. Please, in the chat, go ahead and enter which agency you're representing so we can know who's attending the call. Thanks for coming. We've got a lot to cover today, so we're going to go ahead and get started. The full HMIS staff is on the call, so myself, this is Erin, Casey, Elizabeth, Mai, Adriana, and Chris are all here also, and we have a lot to cover. Here's the full agenda. We'll probably be going back and forth just to stay on track. So the most important item that we're going to talk about today is version 6. I know everyone has a lot of questions, so I'm going to go ahead and start with that. Okay, so the first thing is the export schedule page. So this is the page that, for those of you that do APRs, ESG CAPER exports, SSVF exports, and RAI exports, you will be using this page to pull those CSV exports. So the page is now available for 2.1.1 in version 6. They have not yet released a role so that users can also use the page, but they're working on that. So temporarily, if you need to pull an APR or an ESG CAPER, SSVF, or RAI export, you can enter a ticket with the help desk, and we can create those exports for you and then send them to you through the help desk. And this is only temporary. We're working with them on releasing the page out to the agency administrators, so you will be able to do this yourself. And then reports. Yes, there's been a lot of waiting for reports, but now the APR management reports are available. Also, the Children's and Families Commission report is available. There may still be some issues, so if you're trying to run it, please submit tickets so that we can work on that one. And the HMIS data quality reports are also out. The data quality report that was recently released by HUD. A couple of the big ones that are not out yet is the universal data elements reports and the program-specific data elements at entry and exit reports. We're still waiting from Tech on those. We also do have functionality to pull ad hocs. We're having success with some more than others, though. So if you do have a report request, we can try to work with you to run an ad hoc if we don't already have a management report. But that's kind of a work in progress. Let's see. Required questions for non-federally funded projects. So hopefully all of you saw the email that we sent out a couple weeks ago. According to the new HUD data standards, the program-specific data elements, so that's the questions at entry and exit, including disability type, like physical disability, developmental disability, domestic violence status, all those kinds of questions. They're only now required if your project receives federal funding, which is why they are not showing up for some of you now. And that is a decision by Tech. And so they're no longer allowing us to change any of those rules. So in the past, we've made some local decisions for questions that we wanted to be required, even though HUD didn't require them. Like, for example, the employment questions we wanted to require for all of our projects. Right now, we don't have the functionality to change that. So those types of questions are no longer required unless your project specifically receives funding that requires those questions. So those employment questions are no longer required. The pregnancy questions are no longer required. And if your client's a veteran, it no longer requires them to answer the branch of the military, the discharge status, and the year the client entered the military service. We're going to send out minutes, so we'll include all this detail in the minutes, so you'll have it in writing. But the workaround for this is to make to mark your project as a federally funded project, even if it is not. So that is an option right now if your agency is not seeing those questions and you would like to, like specifically the disability type questions. As a temporary workaround, we can mark your project as receiving COC funding so that these questions will be available if you would like to answer them. But when we do the the data quality reports, we're going to be pulling the data quality reports and reporting on percentages strictly as it's written in the data standards. So it won't impact your data quality if you want to say you're a COC funded project, even if you are not. It's just a way to make those questions show up if that's something internally that your agencies or your agency is interested in collecting. And I'm going to take a quick minute to see if any questions have come up yet. Okay, couple questions. Are those questions correct now for entry and exit? What about annual assessment? Are the questions added to that task? The questions, the HUD-funded entry and exit questions are mostly correct, except for there were some changes to the data standards that went into effect in October that Adriana will be talking a little bit more about. And we have found that not all of those have been implemented correctly. But for the questions that were already there, they seem to be mostly correct. As for the HUD exit questions, which is actually one of my items on here, those questions are still not showing up for anybody at this point, which is definitely incorrect. But we are hounding AdsysTech about this because this is unacceptable. Yeah, so those exit questions are still missing for those that should have the HUD questions available. Annual assessment, those seem to be mostly correct. There wasn't that many changes to the data standards. So if you're seeing something on the household history page that there's an issue with those questions, please enter a ticket. We haven't seen issues with those at this point. When are those questions going to be available for federally funded projects? The entry questions have already been available. Is on the assessments page under enrollment. Let me pull it up for them. All right, so hopefully now you're all seeing my version 6. So if you're receiving federal funding now, you should be able to go to the Assessments tab, select the HUD question assessment. And yes, there are still a whole bunch of assessments here that don't apply to all of you, and we're working on deleting those that don't apply to you. But if you choose the HUD question assessment here and go to edit, these are all of the HUD required fields at entry. So if you're receiving federal funding, they should all be here now. And if you're not receiving federal funding, you should only be seeing through about here, these first 8 questions on this tab. And so this is an example of what I was talking about. If you're not receiving federal funding, but you want to be able to answer all of these questions, let us know, and we can make these visible for you. And while we're here, if you're receiving Children's and Families Commission funding, these are the assessments that you should be completing for entry and exit for that requirement, and all those questions should be in here. Well, they're not. So that's another ticket. But this is where you would answer those questions. Let me go back to the questions. Trying to find the chat box. All right, just 1 second. All right, next question. When we convert to Clarity, will those questions be required? If so, will our data be incomplete after the conversion? So even when we migrate to Clarity, the report cards are going to be run as the data standards are written. So if there's a question that is not required for your project, it's not going to impact you on the report cards. When we move to Clarity, we've already asked them, and we will have the ability to make questions visible if we want them to be visible, even if they're not required by HUD, but we're not going to change the report cards we're not going to change the report cards to match our local requirements. We're just going to make them strictly follow whatever the HUD data standards are. So for now, since the employment questions aren't required, so those aren't going to impact you on the report cards, but then even if we move to Clarity and decide to make those required again, they still wouldn't impact you on the report cards unless by the HUD data standards you are required to collect that information. Will our historical data, where'd it go? Will our historical data be migrated for non-HUD funded projects? Yes, we are planning on migrating that data also. We've already told them we have custom fields that need to be migrated over, and they are willing and able to pull that data over also. If both types of projects, non-federally funded and federally funded, will those questions show up in both projects? Are they required to be answered in the non-federally funded project? So the questions are specific to each project. So if you have one project that's receiving federal funding, all those required questions are going to show up. If you also have another project that is not receiving federal funding, those questions will not show up. So it's specific to each project. So now if you have a project that's not federally funded and you want them to show up, that's what you'll have to let us know so we can add those for you. I think for SSVF, we're federally funded and we're not seeing those questions. Okay, we can look at that, Amanda. Let me make a note of that. Will you be creating a new enrollment form to match what's only required for our agency? Yes, so we do have an intake form and an intake and exit form posted on the website now. But those are temporary. So what we had to do because of time and because of we still aren't sure exactly how all the questions are going to look once they're in version 6. We pretty much had to create an assessment that had all the questions on it and then just push it out to the website so that you could collect the information. But it's not necessarily, it doesn't currently flow the way the questions show up in version 6 because we had to, because of the data standards were released and we had to get the intake form out so that you can at least collect the data. So now what we're doing is going back and revising the forms to match the flow in the system, and and also because there were a bunch of changes. For example, we didn't know that we wouldn't be able to make local requirements on questions. So there's stuff like that now we're going back and updating the forms for, so that it'll match version 6. And we're working on pushing those out on the website also. And we'll send out an email once those are available. Can I run a report that shows all the active clients by program? Yes, in short. Do you want all at the same time or at different times? You should be able to run the HMIS data quality details report. That will list all the clients out for you, and it has similar information that's on it's kind of a mix of the universal data elements and the program-specific data elements, but it doesn't include all of the data elements from both. So I guess it depends on if there's specific data elements that you're looking for. But try that HMIS data quality details report first, and then you can enter a ticket if that doesn't have what you need on it, and then we can either find another management report or try and do an ad hoc. Are these reports pulling people entered into version 6 now? Yeah, they should be. So that's partly why we need all of you, so you can start pulling those reports and letting us know if you're seeing any issues, because they should be functioning correctly. And one of my other topics on here is missing data. So what we've been told by AdsysTech is that there are only 121 enrollments left that are missing from version 6. So we're working through those last few enrollments with them. So other than those 121, your data should be in there. So start running your reports, and I know there are still some tickets in, and I mean, it's possible that some of those are part of the 121, but start running your reports and letting us know if you're seeing more missing data. Rose is saying we've tested the reports and they're not pulling new people entered into version 6 as of Monday. Rose, do you already have a ticket in on that? I'm going to guess yes. So if not, please enter one. And if you do have one in, then I can escalate that to AdsysTech. I know some people have been submitting APRs. And we just had an agency yesterday, it was OCHA, that has been testing their APRs in Sage, and it's mostly going well so far. I mean, there's still some issues, but yeah. So if you're having issues with data, missing data in clients in version 6, please let us know. Rose said we thought we did something wrong. No, Rose. You guys are perfect. Okay. So questions have temporarily slowed. So let's see, where are we? Reports, required questions, reactivating enrollments. So as of yesterday, 211 now has the ability to reactivate enrollments. again, it's one of those things where they have to create a, well, they created a role for us so that we can now reactivate enrollments, and now we're asking them how we give that to all of you. So for now, keep entering your tickets to have enrollments reactivated, and now the difference is that we can do it for you instead of AdsysTech. But there's still the issue that, I don't know, for those of you that have been here for a while, you might remember this. In the past, when you've reactivated an enrollment, it completely wipes out the exit date of the enrollment, and then you have to enter it again when you're done making whatever changes you made. And that has been an issue because it makes your data timeliness look longer. Because let's say you exited the client on March 1st, and you exited the client on the same day you entered them into HMIS. So your lag time would be 0 days. And then 2 months from then, you had to go back and make some changes to the data. So you reactivated the enrollment, and then you exited them again. But then your lag time changed to 2 months because you had to make those changes. And so in the past, we worked with AdsysTech through that, so that wouldn't be the case. But now in version 6, that is an issue again. So now we are trying to figure that out with them, unfortunately. So temporarily, at least, data timeliness is not going to be great for anybody. And when we do our report cards, we're going to be putting a note in there saying that, you know, data timeliness is longer than usual because of issues with version 6, and kind of go into those details to kind of help with that. I got another question. Can I run bed utilization as before? You will be able to. So part of AdsysTech's implementation was that they made us list out all of our custom reports that we created and prioritize them. And unfortunately, not every report could be priority 1. So bed utilization was a custom report that we had created. So that is coming. It's on our list, and they're working on implementing it, but it's just not released yet. Permissions for collaborative projects. So for those of you that are part of a collaborative grant, either the 2 Mercy House collaboratives or Pathways of Hope collaborative, I think those are the only ones. If you are not the grantee for those contracts, so if you're not Pathways of Hope or Mercy House, you are most likely unable to enter new enrollments under those projects or even view existing enrollments for those projects. So yes, we know that too. And we're working with AdsysTech on that. And we know, again, this is impacting data timeliness because you're not able to enter your data. So we're working with them on that. We already kind of talked about missing data. We also talked about the exit questions. They're not showing up for anybody right now, and we are working with AdsysTech on that. Another question, when will you be running your next report cards? Hopefully soon. We don't have, historically we have used the Universal Data Elements and Program-Specific Data Elements Details reports for those, and they're not out yet. So we want to make sure that the reports are running correctly because we don't want to negatively impact your data quality on these report cards. So we don't have a date yet. It's definitely going to be later than we usually publish them. But yeah, we don't have a date yet. Will you give agencies a chance to review their data before publishing since we currently don't have access to reports? Yes, we're not just going to pull them. We'll let you guys know when things appear to be functioning normally, and we'll let you know which reports you should be using to correct that data and give you a couple weeks to make those corrections before we do the report cards. So at least when we run the report cards, the data will be good, even if it's not as timely as we would like it to be. COC entry and exit assessments. So these are the assessments. I've mentioned them before, that they are the questions that are specific to Orange County. So for example, a couple agencies before had 1 or 2 questions that they added on like the program entry page. Tech no longer will allow us to include those in the normal question set, so we had to create a separate one. So it's this COC entry question. And so if you open it up, all of these questions are questions that some agency within Orange County had asked us to add to HMIS. And it also includes the questions that our COC had decided we wanted to ask, which were, which city were you residing in immediately prior to entry, and was the client referred through the coordinated entry system? Ooh, this is fun. So everybody should be opening up this assessment and at least answering this first question here and the second one if it's visible. Right now it's only visible to permanent housing projects. When this is functioning fully and completely, it's only going to list the questions that apply to your project. So for example, which officer completed the intake, this is going to be invisible to those of you that don't need this question, and it will appear for the agency that asked us to add this question. All right, gotta find the chat box again. I have an AHAR question based on what Casey recently sent out. We have people on the report with a lot of missing data from 2006, 2009. The clients have been long gone. I'm wondering what we should do. The clients have been exited for a long time. If the clients exited before the start of the AHAR, which I'm going to guess they have, because that's pretty old, and they shouldn't even be on the report. The AHAR should only include active clients from 10/1/16 to 9/30/17. So if your clients exited before there, then just ignore them. And once the final AHAR goes in, those won't be on there. You guys don't have any permanent supportive housing projects. There shouldn't be any reason those clients are showing up. All right. You may already have covered it. We are concerned about the lack of exit questions and the impact on data timeliness. How will this be adjusted when looking at performance of the agency? Yeah, so like I said, the data timeliness is going to be longer for everybody, and we're going to, when we post the report cards, we're going to include a note on that. Once the exit questions are visible, you're unfortunately still going to have to go back and enter that data. If you're receiving federal funding, it's still a requirement by your federal funder, so you're going to have to go back and enter that data still. In terms of on your APRs with data timeliness, there's usually a narrative section in the APR, so you'll have to include in there. But there have been a lot of issues with the implementation of version 6, and that was why data timeliness was so long. And if you need, like if HUD or whoever require some kind of verification from us on that, we're happy to provide that. Since many functions are not working, is there a way to run a report once all issues are corrected that will show clients who were entered, had an annual assessment, or exited during this period of time so that agencies can ensure data is complete? It's probably not going to be one report. It's probably going to be a few. But yes, that's the goal, is that you'll be able to run your reports, and you might even be able to run the APR management report for like the annual assessment. And really, in your case, you could probably do it for entry and exit also, Christine. But yeah, that once everything's in, well, we're going to provide more guidance on which reports you should be running and which data you should be looking at in order to make sure everything's correct. Okay. Questions seem to have flowed. So I think that's the updates on version 6 for now. There's a couple more specific topics that we're going to get into. So, all right, data standards training. Let me unmute Adriana.
Hi guys, can you hear me now? Okay. Well, as Erin was saying, we still have many issues with the implementation of the data standards changes. So to be completely honest with you, most of the changes haven't been implemented in version 6. And that is really holding us back to publish the training that we talked about in last webinar. We apologize for this delay, but we just don't think it makes sense to publish something that is talking about some changes that are not visible in HMIS right now. So we are going to publish the release date soon, and we just appreciate your patience for that. I think that's all for data standards training. Can you change the slide?
Yeah, I also forgot to mention, so when I was talking about version 6. So I know that this is a frustrating time for all of you, and it's frustrating for us too. And we're trying to communicate what we can with all of you in terms of when things are going to be available. We're not trying to be elusive when we say we don't know when this is going to be fixed or when that's going to be fixed, or we haven't heard back from Ads Tech. We either haven't received a date, or they've given us a date and then changed it. So we're trying to communicate the things that we know, not the things that we would like or that we're hoping for. So please be patient as we're communicating with you guys. We are trying to work through all the issues and answer your questions and get updates from Ads Tech. Unfortunately, not everything can be priority 1. So we're trying to move through that stuff and give you guys actual concrete information and not just kind of lofty ideas. So keep that in mind also as we're...
Exactly. And we have to also test all these changes, you know, because they might say that they are there, but we have to do like rounds of testing, and that also takes time. So that is the reason why you haven't been notified about that training. With the intake and exit forms, we have a very similar situation. As Erin said, we have been working on revamping the form so they follow the workflow and the terminology of version 6, because we want to make the intake process as easy and as smooth for you guys. But we need to wait until the assessments are correctly implemented to release that, because we're going to have the forms for a while, since next year data standards are not going to change. So we want to make sure we publish them and we don't have to change them again. But just as a reminder, the forms that are right now on our website have the data standards changes. So they are just not with the flow version 6.
Agency administrator training, hold on. Participants. Okay, I think this is mine.
Okay, hi everyone. Can you guys all hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So just a quick update that we will no longer have in-person training for the agency administrator training. And we're in the process of creating an online training for it, which, you know, again, it will be available soon. It will be very similar to part 1 and part 2 training. And once it's ready, we'll send out an email to all agency with more information. So that's it for me.
And the other benefit of this is the training is going to be much shorter because it's mostly going to be focused on agency administrator responsibilities and data quality and that kind of stuff. It'll be a lot shorter. So since you'll no longer have to worry about training your users on part 1 and part 2, it should be a much shorter and quicker training. HIV/AIDS sensitivity training, Chris? Not sure if you're muted. Oh. Okay, go ahead, Chris.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so hello. We would like you guys to join us for a free AIDS sensitivity training next Wednesday, November 1st, where representatives from the AIDS Services Foundation will conduct the training, which will consist of a presentation and a Q&A session. If you weren't aware, HIV or AIDS and homelessness are closely related. And for example, the cost of healthcare and medications for people living with HIV or AIDS is often high, and it's difficult for people to keep up with it. And in addition, they are in danger of losing their jobs due to discrimination, and as a result, frequent health-related absences. So today, up to 50% of people living with HIV/AIDS in the U.S. Are at risk of becoming homeless. And so to learn more, just join us in the CASA training room here at our facility next Wednesday from 2 to 4 p.m. We are hoping at least one representative from each of our agencies can attend this training. We hope that it will help us serve this marginalized population much better. There's no need to RSVP, so just be ready to show up and learn. All right, that's all.
Thank you. CFCOC MiniGuide, Elizabeth?
Hello, everyone. This is an announcement to let you know that we're working on the CFCOC MiniGuide. It will serve as a guide on HMIS data entry and reporting required for projects that receive CFCOC funding. The document will cover creating and answering CFCOC questions at entry and exit, scheduling and tracking CFCOC bed nights in the Group Activities Services page, and tracking other CFCOC services such as case notes, case management, and developmental screenings. And finally, CFCOC reporting. So that includes the general report that will report on CFCOC funded deliverables and the ad hocs used to review supplemental CFCOC required questions answered by your clients. This guide will be available in PDF format and will be searchable in our Knowledgebase. So please look out for an announcement from the HMIS help desk letting you know that it's been published. And that's it for my.
Thank you.
No.
Checking your junk folder, Casey.
All right, hi everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, great. So we get communications from agencies sometimes letting us know that they didn't see something that we announced over email. And we mostly use a program called MailChimp to send out emails to agency administrators. And that emails that are made with MailChimp often end up in your junk folder. This is my inbox on the screen, and this is an email that I personally sent from MailChimp, and it still ended up in my junk email folder. So we just wanted to remind you guys to kind of regularly check your junk folder just to make sure you're not missing anything. And if you need help with like how to check your junk folder, you can submit a ticket and we will help you. Okay, next one, Erin. So sending emails to individual HMIS staff is still happening. Erin was recently out of the office for 2 weeks, and I think she got some, which means that whatever you asked her for didn't get dealt with. So we just wanted to say that if you're not sure whether or not something should be sent to someone individually or submitted as a ticket, go ahead and submit a ticket. All of the HMIS staff has access to the help desk, so we can all see that, and your question will be answered faster. And on our end, excuse me, on our end, tickets in the help desk provide training opportunities for newer members of the HMIS staff, so it's really nice to have all of our agency communication in one place so everyone can see it and learn and do stuff. Okay, next one. Thanks, Rose. We love you too.
I'm looking at the chat, the questions. Hold on. We had a request to run an example of report. We can do that at the end. I love the ticketing system. I love you, Rose. Can you please add me to the emails? We currently don't have an administrator. S. Smith, is that?
That's
sorry,
Siobhan
I'm not sure
Smith
which agency.
That's from UVI.
Okay.
So I can do that.
All right. All right, great. So next we'll do a report at the end. Happy Fox.
Okay, so yesterday a user sent me an example of the replies that you guys get from us when we respond to your ticket from the help desk, and we didn't realize that when you get our replies, it just shows the text of the replies. We've been thinking that you're getting like the previous replies and the original ticket of the text, so you kind of have some context of what we're saying to you. So I've contacted Happy Fox, which is our help desk vendor, to make that available. And in the meantime, I created this ticket tracking spreadsheet. It kind of looks like the one that we HMIS staff use to track our tickets with AdsysTech. So I'll include a link to this in the minutes that we'll send out after the meeting. And if you want to look at it right now, it's on the HMIS documents page on ochmis.org. So if you click on the button on the right side that says HMIS documents, it's the very last one. And Erin's going to show you, I think. Maybe.
Maybe.
Also, we're aware that ochmis.org has been loading kind of slowly lately. We're looking into that.
Like for now, as an example.
Sylvia, to answer your question, agency administrators can submit tickets. So only users who are certified agency administrators can submit tickets. Christine, the very bottom, Erin.
Oh.
Can the original subject matter of the ticket also be included in the replies? Yeah, I can look into that, Christine.
So the document Casey mentioned, so you go to ochmis.org, click on the HMIS documents over here on the right, scroll all the way to the bottom, and this is the spreadsheet she's talking about. All right, next slide.
So I think at the last user meeting, we talked about the possibility of setting up an HMIS data quality calendar. We're looking into how to create a calendar like this that we can post on our website, and this screenshot is an example of what we generally see when we sign up for webinars, and the highlighted part, it says you can add it to your Outlook or Google Calendar. So we're looking at a plugin for our website that will allow you to subscribe to a calendar where we will put reminders for when you should run like your Universal Data Elements report when that comes back. So if you're interested in that, please let us know. And if you have any feedback on what kind of reminders you would like to see, please also let us know. You can do that in the chat here or submit a ticket. Okay, next one. Okay, so this is a screenshot of our knowledge base on the homepage of the help desk. So a lot of our articles are currently out of date because they contain information for version 5. So we just wanted to let you all know that we are working on getting new articles up for version 6, and we're hoping to have that done, I think, by the middle of November. And as always, if you have any ideas or suggestions for knowledge-based articles, please submit a ticket and we can see if we can get that going. Okay, next one.
Okay. And just really quick, did I close it and leave it open? Okay. So for the knowledge-based articles, what she's talking about, if you click here on the HMIS Help Desk, and these buttons are visible on the homepage, if you click on the HMIS Help Desk and you type in something, it'll list articles that match your search. And then if you click on them, it'll give you more details. So we're hoping this can prevent some tickets from having to be entered, because it'll provide information for you that we're receiving a lot of questions on and that kind of stuff. And like Casey was saying, we're still updating these articles for version 6, but that's what we're hoping to have available mid-November is all of these articles updated so that you don't have to enter as many tickets. Okay. Casey?
Okay, so if you guys have been here for a while, you might recall my personal vendetta against the other response options for prior living and destination. A couple weeks ago, I was like, I'm submitting an AAQ about this to HUD. I want an answer, because we have yet to think of a possible place someone could have been the night before coming to your project or leaving your project too that didn't fit any of the non-other response categories. And we got this response from HUD saying, we have 0 examples of good uses of other to share. So I emerged victorious from this one. So thinking back on the other responses that we've seen, it seems like a lot of them have to do with maybe not being familiar with other projects in the area, because many of the other responses will include a comment saying something like ASL or Armory. So whoever's doing the intake just isn't aware that those are emergency shelters, for example. So if you or anyone at your agency is ever tempted to use the other field, please give us a call or submit a ticket and we can work with you to figure out what the response should be.
So we wanted to remind the other response for prior living situation and destination, they are both not considered positive responses when you're looking at project performance reports. So both, in both cases, you're being negatively impacted in your performance if you're selecting other. So we've said this before, we strongly encourage you internally at your agency to set a policy that no staff are allowed to use that other option. We're not allowed to remove it because it is in the HUD data standards, but we strongly suggest you set that policy yourself.
Christine, for your question, other is often used when a member was added to the household who were not homeless at entry. So when you use other, it doesn't make that person homeless at entry. You should be entering just wherever that person came from, because it'll have the same effect, and then it'll make more sense when your member of the household moves out to go to college. What is the exit destination? So it would be whatever their living situation is at college. Like if they're living in a dorm or an apartment they're sharing with people, that would be rental or staying with friends or family permanent.
There was another question we missed. New HMIS user training, are you working on a revised training for parts 1 and 2 for version 6? We are working on the part 1. We have already mostly updated part 1. I don't remember if there's anything left, because we definitely already updated part 1 with the screenshots from version 6. There was a couple of changes we wanted to make, but it's mostly still the same, and you can use it now. And then part 2 is already updated for version 6. It's possible that with some of the changes that Spec has made that we'll have to update it again, but both trainings you can use now. Okay. Anything else on this one, Casey?
No.
Hey, Har.
Okay. Hey, Har. So corrections actually went out yesterday. I made this PowerPoint when I was feeling too positive. So yeah, they were sent out much later than we wanted to have them out because the reports were not available in version 6 until late last week. And we've already received some tickets that have identified possible errors on the report. So first, I just wanted to thank everybody who has already looked at the AHAR corrections. We just sent those out yesterday, and I've already received like 4 or 5 tickets with people asking how they can fix stuff. So that's really awesome. I have noticed a couple patterns that probably mean there was an error on the reports that I used to create the corrections. So I'm going to go through all the tickets I have regarding the AHAR, and then I'll send out an update to you guys if I've found something that was definitely an error on Adds as Text part. So the other thing that we wanted to say is we don't want you guys to worry too much about getting all this done by Friday because we know this deadline is really, really tight. And we're also just submitting the first draft on the 31st. So we'll be sending out more corrections next month with a much longer, time to completion. So don't worry until then. And that's all I've got, Aaron.
All right, Chris?
Okay, hey guys, it's Chris again. So far we've received some great feedback and very constructive criticism on our user suggestion box / SurveyMonkey survey. And we would still like to hear from more of our users in order to analyze and implement your feedback to improve the HMIS experience. So Aaron, can you click that link that I provided below?
Sure.
This would kind of like show people what it looks like. So yeah, this is our the survey that we've been advertising for the past few weeks, and we just it just takes about 5 minutes to complete. So yeah, we would love to hear your thoughts, and you can just most of it is just short answer questions, and so we would just love to hear your quick thoughts on how things are going. So if you can just like take 5 minutes after this meeting webinar is over just to complete this, that would be great. And then probably this week or next we'll kind of like analyze your feedback and see how we can implement it into making this experience better for all of us. So yeah, all right, thanks.
All right. All right, questions and answers. So if there's any more questions, please enter them now. And while we're waiting for that, we're gonna attempt to run a report. All right, so in HMIS, you all have this report drop down in the upper right. We have general reports, ad hoc reports, and ad hoc report designer. General reports are the canned reports and what was previously known as management reports. Ad hoc reports are, this is the ad hoc inventory page, so it lists all of the ad hocs that have previously been created. And when I say all, I mean it will. It may not necessarily have them all now. And the ad hoc report designer is where you can create new ad hocs. So mostly we would use this bottom one to create the reports for you and then push them out to you where they'll be available here. So I'm going to run a general report. So when you click on general report, it takes you to the search window. If you change your category to all and click on search, it'll give you a list of all of the general reports you have available now. Your list is going to be shorter than mine is. But I'm going to do like the HMIS data quality report since I mentioned it earlier. You click on Show, it'll pull up the parameters, which you can enter. And if you have questions about what your parameters should be, you can let us know. I'm just doing the % symbol for most of this stuff because that means all. But you can do it for more specific if you're running it for your own agency. I'm just going to run a quick one. So once it's in my way. All right, so once you enter your parameters, click on View Report. Once the report runs, it'll show up down here, and then you can export it. So you click on this drop down, and it'll give you all the formats. Usually, if it's a summary report or aggregate data, you'd want to do a PDF, which this report is. If it's a details report, that means it has client-level data, and you'd want to do it in Excel so you can kind of manipulate your data. So here's the report I ran. This was for our test agency up here, so there's very little data in it. But so there's a report. And there's a few others, like the APR is up and working now. If you want to run that, if you have APRs, that's available. So you would run them here. The ESG caper should also be available. If it's not, please let us know, or if you're having issues with the report. The Children's and Families Commission reports are there, but I think there was an issue with the parameters. I'm not going to run it. Don't worry, Debbie. So this is the issue with the Children's and Families Commission report. This domain here should be defaulting to Children's and Families Commission. And because it's not, the report won't run. And we do already have a ticket in about it, but just letting you know, the report is there, but this is preventing it from running the way it should run. Let's look at the questions. When does ASIS, I think we can run our own exports? It will be before the end of the month, or will I have to request it from you? I would assume at this point that you will need to ask us to run the export for you. I sent them an angry email yesterday and told them that we needed to have this rule, because the issue is right now that the page is available on the administrative side, and in version 5 we could create our own specific roles so that the agencies could use the pages that they needed but not have access to all the administrative pages that they should not have access to. And ASIS Tech has taken that functionality away in version 6, so now we have to ask them to create that type of role for us. And with everything else going on, I don't know that it's going to happen within the next couple days, so I would assume you're going to need to enter a ticket, Amanda. Is there a details report for the data quality report? Yes. HMIS data quality report, HMIS data quality report details. So the details is going to show your client level data. If you're not seeing both of these, please enter a ticket, Allison, so we can give you access to those. Can you send out announcements as reports become available? Yes. We will probably also be announcing them at user meetings as they come up. The big ones that we're waiting on are the universal data elements and program-specific data elements reports. If there's a report that's not one of those, and it's not the Children's and Families Commission report that you need, please enter a ticket, because those are the ones that we're hearing the most about. And those are the general reports that everybody's using. So if there's something else you have in mind, please let us know about that specifically. If we're having that same problem with the CFCOC report, should we submit a ticket? You don't need to submit a ticket about that, Rose. That should be coming up for everybody. And we entered the ticket generally for the report as a whole, not for a specific agency. If you're not having that issue, then that is outstanding for you, but I'm not hopeful. So you don't need to enter a ticket about that. Thank you, Christine. Any other questions from anybody? We're actually right about on time. Just going to wait a minute and see if any other questions come up. At this point, agency admins cannot use the reactivate delete from program feature as in version 5, correct? What if a client was entered an error twice in version 6, so I need to submit a ticket? So you can delete enrollments yourself, Stephanie. The functionality is completely different from version 5. It's no longer one page where you reactivate and delete enrollments. It's kind of within the module. So for example, I'm on the enrollment page, applications tab. So this is all of the enrollments that I have for my client Erin Test. If you want to delete an enrollment, you can click on this X, and that deletes the enrollment for you. So you can do that yourself right now. So that's how you delete an enrollment. And then for reactivating enrollments, it's going to be the same thing. So what it is it's a separate role up here on top where it says roles. When it's available to you, it will be called HMIS SA like this. It looks exactly the same, but it's a different role that's specifically allowed to reactivate enrollments. So you would search for your client, come here to this applications tab again. And cool, I'm not seeing it now, hold on. Let me exit this person and then see if it shows up for me. Okay, it is here. Oh, it's a household member. So, all right, so let me start over. When you have the reactivation enrollment, you'll go to this HMIS SA role, you'll search for your client, and then go to the household members page, not applications, go to household members. If they're exited, it'll say exited yes here. And then here you'll see this little box with a check in it. If you click on it, it'll undo the exit. So that's your reactivation and how you do it. So right now we have that functionality, and we have asked AdSys Tech how to give you guys access to this role. And that one I'm hoping we're going to get a response on fairly quickly since the functionality is already there. It's just a matter of pushing it out to all of you. Yeah, so you can. To summarize, you can delete your own enrollments, but you still need to enter a ticket for us to reactivate them for you. All right, so it seems questions have stopped. So we're going to end the webinar here. We are going to post this recording, and we're also going to post minutes for the webinar that have a bunch of the details that we talked about here. So if you have other staff that aren't here, please have them either watch this recording or review those minutes. And thank you so much, everybody, for your patience. I know this has been rough. It's rough for us too. Please keep entering tickets. I know you probably feel uncomfortable at this point if you've got like 20 in there. But just keep keep doing it. We need to know all the issues, and the quicker you tell us, the more likely it is it's going to be resolved quickly. So thanks again, everybody. And and the next meeting is going to be November, end of November, the last Wednesday after Thanksgiving. I think the 29th is when the next user meeting will be, from 10 to, right now it's scheduled 10 to 11. It may go longer depending how many updates we have, but that one's going to be in person. So we'll send out an event reminder about that also. Thanks, everybody.